there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video. Welcome to episode 64 of Ask Bossk Bounty. This is of course the weekly series where I answer your questions from the comments section below. So if you do have a question for next week's episode, please leave it down below. Loads of questions again this week, very difficult to get through them all, but I have picked out loads of questions this week and we're going to answer them, some of them at least, very quick fire indeed, just to get through them, because I think it's probably a record for the amount of questions that I got asked in last week's episode. Now there are a couple of things that I do want to address before we get into the questions, and the first one being this amazing custom action figure from Twin Sun Customs on Instagram. I will leave a link to their Instagram in the description below so you can check them out. They make custom figures and they were kind enough to make this exclusive Trandoshan pilot for me. It's a one of one Bossk Bounty special edition. I mean, for somebody to make something like this for me, I just don't have the words really. It's incredible. You can see their logo there, Twin Suns, and they make amazing customs. So this one looks to me like a vintage Bossk painted in the style of the Trandoshan pilot from the Star Wars Squadrons game. And once again, I just can't thank them enough. I did feature this yesterday in a video, which was like a sort of fan mail unboxing video and a giveaway. So the giveaway is running. So please do check that video if you want to be included in the giveaway and see some other awesome stuff that I was sent. Again, I'll leave that link to that video in the description below as well. But thank you so much to Twin Suns Customs. Yeah, I'm overwhelmed really. YT006, that's just awesome. Really great design, so thank you so much for that. The other thing I wanted to address was, of course, last night on the Vintage Collection show live stream, I did have guests on that show, namely Jason from Yakface and Tyler from the SWTVC Instagram group. Awesome guests to have on. We had a great chat and everything. And one thing I did want to share about that was the Gaming Greats Vintage Collection, which I get asked about a lot. And previously I've answered it in that essentially because it's a GameStop exclusive, which they've done previously with the Black Series, Hasbro would need to sort of strike that deal to get that in the Vintage Collection. And by all accounts, it looks like it could be happening. It is just a rumour, I must stress at this stage, but you might want to go ahead after this video and watch the live stream with Jason for a little bit more information about that possibly. And with all that being said, if you do happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to drop a like down below. And of course, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Just past 14,000. So once again, thank you so much for the support. And also thank you to my most recent Patreon supporter, which is Matt Drake. I think he became a supporter yesterday while I was on the live stream actually. So thank you so much for the support. It really means a lot. All right, so the first question comes from Josh Butt and he says, "Hi Tim, I just got my Incinerator Trooper this week, finally. One was in pristine condition and the other looked like it was sat on. Since the Vintage Collection is a collector's line, do you think that Hasbro will ever ship these with protective case, similar to the Star case and not as sealed as the Saga line? Stay safe." Thank you, Josh. Yeah, this was kind of also discussed in the live stream last night. We talked about Walmart and the massive issue with VC177 turning up in all sorts of horrible conditions, if at all. And yeah, I think that could be a way to go. I think the price would go up though if they included those clamshells again, but it would be a way of protecting the figure, very much like these ones here, you know, unpunched, absolutely pristine condition. Obviously I've taken mine out of the clamshell, but you know, to get them in the clamshell, that could be a way forward for exclusives anyway. And I'm sure if everyone was asked to pay maybe £1 more for that privilege, then possibly they would do that. The other issue is the issue of plastics, and I think they're trying to avoid using too many plastics. So who knows, my friend, on that point, but it would be advantageous to collectors to receive them in decent condition. 1980s and Star Wars guy says, "Do I have the Clone Wars animated Bossk figure?" Actually, my friend, that is probably one of the Bosks that I do not have. I do not have the animated Bossk. It's something that I probably will get hold of in the future. If I see it on the right price on eBay or whatever, but it's not something that I've actively tracked down. Thomas Patrick Schoen says, "How many Vintage Collection waves usually come out a year? Was collecting Vintage Collection when it started as difficult as it is now? What Vintage Collection sets would you like to see this year? Cheers, Bossk family." I think recently it's been 3 or 4 waves of Vintage Collection figures, and then on top of that you've probably got a repack wave, maybe 2 if you're lucky a year, so potentially 5 or 6 waves, 2 of them being repacks. It isn't enough, is it really, if you think about it? I think that ends up being about, you know, 9 or 10 new figures a year, a few repacks, a few repaints. It isn't enough. The Sentinel says, will you ever interview the head of the Star Wars action figure line at Hasbro? So I went to Toy Fair, and it was my first time going to Toy Fair, and I hadn't actually booked myself a interview with any of the guys, which is a bit annoying. But next time I do go, yes, 100% I will try and get an interview or get on one of those Q&A sessions with Hasbro. It's something that I definitely want to do. Fetmatic says, question for next week. Do you think an updated Snowtrooper or Sandtrooper is needed for the vintage collection? Keep up the amazing content, and what's up, little Bossk? I think the Sandtrooper is possibly more needed than the Snowtrooper. I think the Snowtrooper that we got in the Vintage Saga collection isn't too bad. It could do with updating, don't get me wrong. But I think now we've got this new VC-140 Stormtrooper, pretty much the definitive Stormtrooper. It would be nice to see a new Sandtrooper, you know, so essentially just dirty him up, get the orange pauldron on him, because obviously this one uses the old sculpt. So it would be nice to see that happen, and I'm sure in the future they would probably look at doing that, because it essentially it's an easy one for them to do. Rennie's review says, why does it take Hasbro 12 to 18 months to create a figure? So there's loads of things that go into it. Essentially, you've got the design process, then you've got to get it signed off. Lucasfilm have got to be in on that, you know, with the decisions of what's happening and what have you, and they've got to sign things off. Then obviously they've got their production schedule at the factories that they've got to sort of probably have booked in a year in advance, and it all comes down to that sort of thing. I think if they pushed it, they could get things out from the minute it gets designed within 12 months. I think they got the Baby Yoda Black Series figure out quicker than that, so it can be done. Obviously he's really small. It all depends, but that's essentially why. They've just got so many different things to sign off, and factory schedules and all that kind of stuff. City Slacku says, question for next week. Why do you think we haven't gotten a Bossk in the vintage collection other than the 3-pack? Well, essentially, I think it just comes down to the one that they did bring out in the Vintage Saga collection in, 2007 is so good. You know, this is the Bossk that I always use in all of my videos, and for some reason I haven't got him included today, which is a bit of a error on my part. But it's such a great figure. It really doesn't need updating. And obviously it's on the original card back, so what else could they do apart from just reissue it, really? That's probably why. Patrick McGuinness says, question for next week. Have you watched the fan film on YouTube called Bossk Scorekeeper? It's very high quality and the Bossk costume looks amazing. I have seen it. I thought it was really, really good, especially as far as a fan film goes. And you're absolutely right. Bossk looked incredible in it. Really, really good. Tomb Toy says, can Bossk even dress himself with those 3-finger claw hands? And how does he work a zipper or a buckle? That's a very good point, actually. I don't even think his flight suit has got a zipper on it. You know, so how would he even get out his lizard? M Stitch V says, hey Boss, question for you. I've been trying to find some sort of list where I can see all of the vintage brands that made Star Wars 3.75-inch figures like Kenner, Lily Leddy, Clipper, Palitoy, etc. And he goes on to say that he can't find any sort of this info. So the info where I get it from was actually provided in this awesome sort of guidebook. It was made by the Echo Base Facebook group. And in the back, I'll try and get as much of it in camera as possible. We have information on all of the different license holders. So you've got Harbert in Italy, Mira Meccano in France, Palitoy in the United Kingdom, obviously, Glasliti in Brazil, Tops Toys in Argentina, Toll Toys Australia and New Zealand. Absolutely amazing. And I think there's like a map as well, just showing you where they all came from. So maybe I will actually create a web page post on my website, sort of to document this all in my own words. I think that would be quite a nice resource for people out there. So yeah, maybe I'll do that. You've even got the Poppy ones in Japan there. Really nice guide this, but I'm not sure if you can still get hold of these, but yeah, that's the information where I get it from anyway. Andy Garan says, hi Tim, question for next week. Have you ever considered getting custom card backs for figures you still want released in the modern line and use the best version of the figure currently available to put under the bubble? For example, a 2006 Saga Collection Bib Fortuna. No, that's not really for me. I have thought about that, but I would rather just get the actual official release and wait for it, essentially. And even that Bib Fortuna, I wouldn't want that on the back of a card back, to be honest. So that's probably a bad example. But I know what you mean. You could possibly get her Check Calfas, for example, or the Rancor Keeper from the Legacy Collection and put them on custom cards. I would prefer to wait for Hasbro to do it, essentially. Could be waiting a while, I know. But yeah, custom figures like this that are specially made, and also custom cards for custom made vintage Kenner figures, I'm happy with that. I love that sort of thing. But the modern line, I'll just prefer Hasbro to do it themselves. Marky D 1967 says, hi Boss, question for next week. Why do some vintage collection figures have foreign languages in the name pill, and how does Hasbro choose which figures need it? To me it seems completely random, inconsistent and totally unnecessary. The foreign language used always appears to be French too, if I'm not too mistaken. Why French? I think French possibly because it's got something to do with French Canadians maybe. I think if something's being produced in the US, then possibly they're doing that for those guys. I could be completely wrong about that. Also, French is quite a well-spoken language around the world. I know that historically speaking, the UK releases have been single name pilled, and it's the US releases that are the double name pilled. So maybe it is to do with Canada, possibly. But maybe also, I think maybe they've decided to, across the board, have them all the same now. Looking at the majority of the figures that we've had, certainly in 2020, I can't remember many of them or any of them being the double name pilled. I think to save costs, they've just gone all out with the single name pill. Galactic Plastic says, hey Bossk, here's a question for you and all collectors. Do you think Hasbro will ever fully understand collectors, or do you think there will always be some sort of obvious disconnect? He's talking about unreleased key characters, bad card backs and bad distribution. I think, unfortunately, there will always be some kind of disconnect, and they'll always do things that perhaps you don't want them to do and not do the things that you want them to do. But there's got to be some kind of sort of marketing decisions out there for what they do. But yeah, I think there'll always be some kind of disconnect, and it's just ultimately the way it is. Jedi Master 024 says, question for next week. Hello from CT USA. So why was Crate Luke, the vintage collection, so hard to find and so limited? Such a great figure, thanks. Sure would make a great 6-inch Black Series figure as well. Well, to be honest, in the UK, that figure's still easy to get. I think you can get him on eBay for £20, which is, you know, in terms of vintage collection prices, that isn't actually too bad for a figure that's no longer available. I do know in the US he has been slightly harder to get hold of. Same with that Rey figure from The Rise of Skywalker. And I just think some of them are a bit short-packed and, you know, less produced. And that's why they're harder to find. Adam Guggenheim says, question, Hasbro has gone quiet on the Razor Crest. What types of updates do you expect between now and when it's finally shipped? Well, I hope to see the box is one thing. Maybe we'll see that at Toy Fair. I would be surprised if we see it this Fan First Friday. I think this next Fans First Friday next week's going to be a kind of light offering, if you like, to begin the year. I think the main things will be shown at Toy Fair in the end of February. Maybe we'll get to see the box then. I hope to see the box. Apart from that, there's probably not much else that they can come out with for it. Logan the Comic Collector says, question for next week. Would you consider the Power of the Force Classic Edition 4-pack weapons to be repros, or would they be considered originals which could go with the figures from the 70s and 80s? I don't class them as repros because they are produced by the official company. Would they go with the originals? No, because you can tell the difference. Same with the retro collection figure weapons, you can tell the difference. So those aren't classed as repros as far as I'm concerned, but at the same time, as I say, I wouldn't put them with my vintage figures. Matthew Prees says, question for next week. Do you think Hasbro will ever get rid of the worn edges on the retro collection packaging? I've yet to hear anyone on YouTube say that they like it. Thanks and keep up the great videos. To answer that question, I don't think they will. I think it's just the design that they've gone with, and it hits it home even more with the Remnant Stormtrooper. You know, this figure was never a vintage figure, so how could the card back get worn, you know? I can understand kind of them doing it with the original Empire Strikes Back figures and the Star Wars figures, but this Remnant Stormtrooper's from the Mandalorian, which is extremely modern, and they've still gone with it. So you can just imagine when they come out with the Mandalorian wave that they will all still have that, and if they do that, then there's absolutely no way they'll ever remove it for, you know, Return of the Jedi figures, for example. Ed5 says, I know it's Monday morning when I can sit back with a morning coffee and watch the Q&A. Thank you, mate. What do you think the rumoured something blue will be? I think it will be Mithril. What are your thoughts, mate? I'm pretty sure that we've ascertained that it is the Black Series, and Yakface, Jason from Yakface, put up on his Instagram a picture of the Levi's 501 jeans. So I pretty much think we can take from that it's the 501st Clone Trooper, which would be pretty awesome because I believe he was only available in a 4-pack, which is now pretty rare. So to get him back out there, maybe he's going to come in the archive line. Possibly, I do not know, but I think that's what they're referring to as something blue is going to be that 501st Clone Trooper. Jedi Jack Porkins says, hey Bossk, love the show. I'm starting a new YouTube channel centered around Star Wars action figures. Any advice for someone just starting out? If you're just starting out, be prepared for a potential long slog at the beginning because it's very difficult to get out there. What I would say, if I had any advice for someone that's new, is to have your own style, your own opinions, your own look and feel of the channel if you possibly can. I know it's difficult when we're all reviewing the same figures, but try to do it in your own style and have your own look, and you'll get further that way. I think you could easily get drowned out in being similar to other people, so yeah, try and have something that's separates your channel from the rest is my advice. The Darth Eddie says, hey Bossk, love the videos as always and enjoying the live streams. If you could pick one specific figure to be VC200 when the line reaches that milestone release, which character would you choose? He would pick Simalu, the Imperial Dignitary. Ah man, I did look at the list of figures that we're getting for this year and try to count up to VC200, and it goes past the ones that we already know about. So who could that be? Who could VC200 be? It's an interesting one, isn't it? I really don't know who I would pick. I honestly wouldn't know who to pick. I hope it's a big character. Maybe it could be a redone figure like Luke Skywalker, Farm Boy or something, like the definitive version of him, and just have him as VC200 and, but other than that, yeah, I don't know. Alright then guys, that's it for this week. I apologise if I didn't manage to answer your question, but please leave your questions for next week's episode. Love doing these videos with you guys. Check out that live stream with me, Jason and Tyler. It's on the channel. We had a really good chat and I want to thank them again for being such amazing guests on the live stream. Thank you very much for watching again this week, and we shall see you on the next one.